Not me falling. All right. Here's a list of 10 reality shows that I think are worth the watch in 2022. They're not all current and they're not all old. So there's a mix of both in this list. And I think there's something for everyone. And if you're interested in my number one pick, you're going to have to stay to the end of this video. That's right, guys. I organized them this time. So my most interesting pick is going to be my number one pick at the end. So let's see if I can actually keep up with keeping track of the numbers. Because I'm known to forget a number or two. So number 10 on this list of watchable reality TV shows has to be Selling Sunset. This one is a real estate based show and it's pretty popular. It's on Netflix. There's something for everyone on this show, I think. The producers are providing them with tea on the other castmates.
I don't like two-faced people. And I'm not saying you are two-faced, but it's going that direction. And I was like, oh, wow, you were super nice to her.
They're discussing their personal lives. They're discussing the real estate. And then it's also just trying to deal with difficult coworkers.
I feel about the ring being moissanite or not a real diamond per se.
And that I can, I felt that. Because some people are nuts. Some people are just nuts. That's just what it is. But then they can't be gotten rid of because they're actually good at their job. So there's a lot of that. And I think that the fashion is beautiful. I mean, they take it to the next level, showing up to the office like...
Not a purse.
It's a chair purse. I mean, you don't hold anything. It's a fashion statement, you know?
The main issue I had with the series was its lack in diversity. And over time, they've tried to adjust and add to it and grow to the family. That's great. I'm glad to see the growth. Netflix should have been a little bit more responsible because LA real estate doesn't just have one type of face. And I think that should have just always been clear throughout the show. Maybe they should have been able to showcase multiple brokerages in this Selling Sunset. Number 9 on this list is a one-hit wonder, and I am talking about Eco Challenge Fiji, or if that's not the name, it will be on the screen. So the Eco Challenge Fiji follows a bunch of teams racing to get to several checkpoints through woods, through mountains, through rivers. All that is basically, you got to get to point A to point B with your team, and it's a race to the finish. It was incredibly interesting to see these raw moments of these real people experiencing some crazy wilderness situations. Like, for example, there was a team with a man with Alzheimer's, and him and his son were navigating the woods, and one of them got injured, and one had to carry the other. It was just crazy. I love seeing the real and also stuff that I wouldn't do, because you're not gonna catch me in the woods at night, because they had that was 24 hours, that challenge. Okay, some people backed out. Like, once it got dark, some people were shook and backed out. You gotta get to certain checkpoints by certain times or else you're eliminated. You gotta increase your pace, but you gotta make sure that your entire team is healthy, entire team is safe. Because there were predators and stuff out there, all that. So it was crazy. It was an interesting ride. This was something that I picked up pretty early on in the pandemic, so I have pretty foggy memory about exactly what happened. I might rewatch it, but I know it's on Amazon Prime, and I know it's really good. So that's number 9. All right. Number 8. Don't know if everyone would call this a reality show, but it's my list, so I'm calling it a reality show. I am talking about the hit show with umpteenth amount of seasons on MTV, and that is Wildin' Out.
What the roof? You don't get your goddamn orthopedic Trey Songz looking ass out of here.
Instead of your damn homies, you got tattoos of all the restaurants that closed on your back.
So Wildin' Out has actually turned into a show that is not only classic, but continuously evolving, enjoyable, and not afraid to laugh at itself in moments. So it's totally worth a watch these days. It's gotten better and better now that people are able to come back to the show in person. It was a little awkward for a while there when they had these virtual hosts and it was just clearly incredibly pre-produced, but it is still such an enjoyable, like, forget your worries and just hang out with Nick Cannon and laugh at yourself, laugh at him, and listen to some new music because they do put on some new artists. You have to be entertaining to be on that show and have a certain amount of charisma. And if you either you have it or you don't, so it's pretty interesting to see celebrities on that show and either flop in my eyes or do incredibly well. Number 7. Well, I have to put this one low on the list because even though I had such a great time watching it, I have complaints, all right? So number 7 is The Ultimatum. The same producers of Love is Blind created the show called The Ultimatum, where basically couples, alleged couples, people who allegedly wanted to get married, one of them wants to get married, one of them isn't sure if they're going to get married, do these tester relationships with other people to see if they're comfortable with new people or if they're ready to commit to the person who they're actually in a relationship with. So all of this happens. Meanwhile, Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey are there asking questions. Some people are getting freaked out and just deciding to marry their original partner before the experiment even gets the chance to begin. What was interesting about The Ultimatum to me was to see the dynamics of a long-term partnership, the way they talk to each other versus the way they talk to a new person.
It's hard for you not to see me.
What the fuck do you want me to do? You want me to just sit in my corner?
Sit in the fucking corner and miss me.
Shanique, then that's obvious. I'm okay. I'm gonna need you to like really grow up about this.
The way that their parents spoke about that person, it's funny to watch certain scenes. It is gut-wrenching at other times.
Have a minute, please.
I'm not moving.
No, you for that.
Fuck me for.
Why do you have to have these scenes where they're set up to talk when they're already at the same apartment building?
But maybe it's not the person I'm supposed to marry. And that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, that surprises me. That's maturity to realize that and question that. That's a new April coming out,
Okay, so that's number... Shit. I think that's number... I should be writing this down. This is terrible. Number 6 on this list has so many seasons for you to binge. Anyone could be down for this. If you respect art, you'll love this show. I am talking about Ink Masters. And actually, they just brought back Ink Masters for a new season on Paramount Plus. But, okay, so the show basically takes tattooing to a whole new level, having these people compete to see who's the best tattooer by showing all different types of tattooing. American traditional, biochemistry, abstract, all types of tattooing, all types of art. Like you get special points and benefits in the game if you win certain challenges for certain art competitions. So you have to be a real artist overall to really win this game and have certain alliances. And it's really something like you don't have to think too hard about watching it. But if you want to see the drama in between, like between the cast members and judges and all that, like some of the judges be barking back at people. Like, and now so they're actually just coming out with this new season with new judges, new hosts, and some returning people coming back to fight for the title because people do get pretty freaking serious about wanting this title. But I could use more mess. I could use more mess. I could use more side conversations. You guys don't let the contestants talk as much as I want. Like, you're going over and over again with the same like confessionals in the background where people have these pre-produced scripts. But what I really want to see is like the contestants wake up in the morning and somebody's hand is shaking because they got, I don't know, I'm making stuff up. You know what I'm saying? I want more drama. Show it. Number 5 is on this list, smack dab in the middle, because I have a love-hate relationship for it. I think that the casting is questionable, but the premise and the show in general is definitely interesting and worth a watch. So what I'm talking about, number 5 on this list, is Married at First Sight. They basically marry strangers at first sight for the most part, but there's a selection process. They check to see if they feel like you're ready for marriage, if you're ready for a partner. I think maybe it's 3 months or something like that. I cannot remember how long it is. In an apartment complex with the rest of the couples to figure out if you really like this person and if you want to stay married or if you want to get a divorce. I'm, for the most part, caught all the way up. This show hits. It's got arguments. It's got deep conversations, therapy sessions. But yeah, like you take these random people and you mix them together. You get some beautiful couples out of it. That's great. That is the best part of the show. The bad part is that for some reason, they keep finding these crazy black men in particular.
And I'm asking you to honor that commitment in this moment. Honor the fact that you told me that you would be truthful going forward.
Why is it that every season, at least one season, you see a crazy black man who is not ready for marriage and should not have maybe been selected for this process? And they say millions of people or whatever, how many people signed up for this or apply for this? And it's like, why didn't you get one that was less nuts? Like, one of them had a baby on the way. There are so many more men in general deserving of this experience, but in particular black men. I don't understand why they have them looking kind of crazy.
He's one dog. It always goes back to Rocky. Why?
You need a second.
I just want you.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna work.
What?
Number 4. All right. Number 4 has to be, and this one has a soft spot in my heart. I know it's not everyone's flavor, but I'm putting it on there because that's really how I feel, okay? And y'all not going to shame me, okay? This is number 4. Coming in at number 4 for my most rewatchable reality TV shows has to be Love and Hip Hop. Is it the franchise, the cultural phenomenon? There's a bunch of crazy stuff that happens in their lives in general, so you just see that play out, and it just is not always a good look, but it's always good TV, and it's definitely really great to rewatch, especially if you go back to the earlier seasons and you see when they had less, security and they were really fighting. But then, so there is that, and there's definitely rewatchability in all that.
It's true. So stop.
It's not
Disney has been with
How old are you, Judy? What do you mean stop?
You asking me how old? What the you asking me how old?
No. I'm taking you. Sorry. I'm telling you. I'm taking you. Bitch. That bitch is dead tonight. That bitch is dead. You shut up.
Look, relax. Just chill.
No. You don't come too close to me. Man, get that bitch. She's a ratchet bitch.
Man, I ain't gonna never give me DT. I guess this is gonna be up.
But have you guys seen in the more recent seasons post-COVID, or not to say that we're past COVID, but to say ever since 2020, they have made a conscious effort to be more socially conscious in the show discuss real issues. Like they had conversations around Breonna Taylor. They had discussions around Yandy being a part of the protest and actually getting arrested from the protest. There were conversations around, I don't know, just the family dynamic. They started getting into some real shit on there. And by that time, I feel like a lot of people stopped watching, including me. And so shout out to the show for really being responsible in those moments. And because of that, I've definitely given the show a second chance. And I look the other way sometimes when I see certain mess. So number 3 on this list has to be Bad Girls Club. Now, it's available on Hulu. They don't have all the seasons, but they have some good ones. Bad Girls Club, if you haven't seen it, is about a group of girls isolated off in this house. There is not a competition, nothing. It's just you stay in the house and you communicate with other girls. And you hang out with them socially and you see how they interact. And most of these girls are pretty much troubled from what they would say. They would call themselves bad girls, right? The way that they show girls interacting with other girls, it's just an interesting social experiment. And then on top of that, there's so many fights. Viral meme moments have happened because of that show. It's iconic in my opinion for reality TV. I think that show, once they started showing fights, that's when everyone else fell in line and was like, oh shoot, people want to see these arguments in totality. They want to see it escalate and then get kicked out the club. So that is the type of content that you are in for with Bad Girls Club. But towards the end, they also bring in a life coach and they try and help the girls with their issues. Like they bring their parents in and they have conversations with their parents. And so it has really good bones, and I'm hoping that one day Oxygen will find it in their hearts to bring it back and do it in a responsible way where maybe potentially these girls could win life-changing money if they learn more about themselves, if they complete a certain therapy process, like marriage boot camp, but for money, but just for personal growth. I don't know. Get something. Do something, but then still have them argue at the club. Okay. Number 2 on this list has to be, and the reason why this is number 2, I'm going to let you know right straight up front, is because of racism. Unfortunately, because of its past, its sketchiness, I can't put it as number 1, but it definitely hits to the point where it would be number 1 if it weren't for all the other things that we're going to get into. Okay. So number 2 on this list for rewatchable reality TV shows has to go to Big Brother. Now, I'm new to the game. This is another one of my quarantine finds. Big Brother is a competition reality show where you're put into a house with, I think it's 15 house guests to a house. I really don't know what the exact number is, but it's a bunch of people. They get into a house and you basically, the last person to survive in the house wins $500,000. I think it is $500,000. Okay. Like I've considered going on there and trying to get some coin. Is hilarious, interesting. So they call it a social experiment because it's basically like they have to vote each other out of the house each week. People ally with each other. There are games played for power, for certain tokens of power in the game. There are a bunch of different really interesting social elements to it. You see psychos really go in there and manipulate people. You can do anything in the game. Anything goes. Like there's no like pre-produced thing that they have to do for their game. It's just stay in the house, don't get voted out of the house, and then you potentially win these things like vetoes or HOH. I won't get too into it. Maybe I'll do like a full video about Big Brother because I do have a lot to say about like just the show in general. But look, so the reason why it's not number 1, like I said, racism. So it took forever for a black person to win. Recently, there was a whole like black alliance that had to be formed in order for a black person to get to the finals, because that had never even happened. And then from there, they battled it out, and it was beautiful to watch. It was really awesome. They were called the Cookout. It was really cool to see a black man finally win. All of that. And so now I can finally even like put my stamp of approval on the show, because before I was like, I can't even like publicly talk about this show. Like, I could watch it. I could watch it from the confines of my house and enjoy the content, but I'm not going to publicly promote it if it's going to be out here just getting the black people out day 3. It just can't happen. So once I saw that Xavier actually won, shouts out to him, I was like, yeah, I could definitely put it on this list. So it's worth the watch. There are mind competition. There are endurance competitions. Like, people, they get smacked. There was this one competition that I watched where you had to eat a bunch of frozen yogurt and your team had to gain more weight than the other team. They had these people just timed chugging frozen yogurt on live television. Did I mention some of these things are live too? And they're also in the house 24 hours on camera. And there are live feeds, like you can watch. You could go on right now. There's a season going on right now and see what the house guests are doing. One season, the house guests had to wear wristbands. I don't know if this is still a thing, but they had to wear wristbands so you could literally see exactly where they were in the house and what they were doing, what their activity level. If they were laying around or whatever, then they were gonna get a punishment, unbeknownst to them. So there's just so many like different elements to the game to stay in the house in order to win. And they're always throwing random twists in. Like this season that I'm watching right now, there's a twin twist where they're twins. Anyway, you get the point. It's an interesting game. There's so many elements to it. Anyone from any age, I think, could find something interesting in the game. If you like mind games, if you like competition games, if you like arguing, if you like, I don't know, Pretty Women, anything. There's a bunch of stuff there for Big Brother. Okay, so blah, 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 watch Big Brother. Okay, moving on. Last one. I hope you guys are still following, because I barely am. Number 1 pick, I have to call it. It's so good. There's so many seasons that you can be watching, go back or watch it, binge it. It's a great show. I done put so many people onto this show. Okay, that's enough perambling. Number 1 pick has to go to Alone. Now, this show is on both Netflix and is on Hulu. It slapped so hard that they like agreed to both have it. Okay, it's actually off the History Channel, so if you have regular cable, you have it too. So it's totally like accessible. Everyone can watch this. This is a show about surviving alone for, I think, $500,000. I think it's a similar prize to Big Brother. Okay, so you have to survive alone in the wilderness. You have to find your own shelter. You have to find your own food. You have to find like safety, because there are like bears and stuff. There's wildebeest. So there are just so many different climates. I think I'm currently on a season where they're in Bear Mountain, something like that, where there's a bunch of bears around. All right. So the show, it has danger. It has self-reflection, because some people are going on the show in honor of things. Like, for example, there was this one guy who was going in honor of his daughter who had passed away and felt like he had to honor his daughter in doing that. So they're just because you're alone, just so many things start flowing out onto the camera. And I mean it when I say they're straight up alone. There's no camera crew or anything like that with them. They have to carry around their camera, their GoPro. They have to set it up everywhere they go. But then on the side of that, you also learn how to fish, and you see somebody like I don't know, like making traps for rabbits, and you learn that you can brush your teeth with certain pine. It was interesting. These people were like making something out of nothing, which I admire so much. So it's totally an interesting watch, and it's definitely for the family too. My mom loves this show, so if Robin Renee approves, you know it's a good show. So I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me and just talking about reality TV shows. Some of these were so nostalgic for me, and it was great to go back and rewatch and remember why I love those shows. I still stand by it. Don't shade me for loving them. Have you guys seen any of these shows, and which ones are you gonna pick to add to your new queue or to your new watch list? Do people say queue? No, they don't say queue. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.